Hello, I'm Shane Storks. I'm here today with another Michigan AI student takeover spotlight, and I'm talking to Emily Bao. She is a rising fourth year PhD student at the Situated Language and Embodied Dialogue, or SLED lab, just like me, advised by Professor Joyce Chai. She studies multimodal grounded language acquisition and pragmatic generation, and she's also been awarded a Weinberg Fellowship for her research. Before that, Emily received a bachelor's degree here at Michigan in computer science and a minor in biology. Her recent paper, Learning to Mediate Disparities Toward Pragmatic Communication, just appeared in the ACL 22 conference in May. So, hi, Emily. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you do in your research and what you're interested in?
Yeah, hi, Shane. What do I do in my research? I study grounded language acquisition. So basically, we're trying to take inspirations from how human babies learn language, the whole process, and trying to imitate that in the machine learning model. By doing that, we're trying to achieve learning efficiency, continual learning, and a bunch of other nice features that the current pre-trained large models don't just quite have yet. But also, that's the hope. It's work in progress. We'll see how it goes and what happens.
Yeah, so the current pre-trained language models, as you said, they're basically trained on a ton of text from the internet. Basically, and even to achieve some kind of downstream tasks, we're training them on lots and lots of examples. So yeah, your work is trying to take inspiration from human learning, from us as children, to work toward more efficient learning and continual learning, things that aren't enabled just yet in the state of the art. So specifically in your recent paper about learning to mediate disparities toward pragmatic communication, what did you find?
Yeah, so for that work, we are trying to achieve pragmatic conversation. Basically, imagine a human speaker and a listener. We would really adjust the way how we talk and what we talk based on who we're talking to, what kind of scenario we're talking about, and all kinds of factors. And basically, our model is trying to interact with the listener and pragmatically generate the same content of information, but in different ways to communicate with the listener based on what kind of information they have access to, what kind of knowledge background they have. And our model found that by adding just a very lightweighted layer on top of some pre-trained models, we're really able to achieve this efficiently compared to pre-trained models. So yeah.
What types of disparities did you look at when it comes to knowledge disparities?
Yeah, so we were trying to simulate two types of disparities. One is knowledge background disparity, the other is visual access. So with the knowledge background disparity, imagine a lot of time we all get educated in different kinds of schools. We grew up in different environments. We all have our personal interests in certain things, but not necessarily the other things. So knowledge background is just to simulate that. And we sort of simplified in our data set to try to use vocabulary knowledge background to approximate this kind of disparity. So imagine if as a non-native English speaker or a baby who probably doesn't know all different kinds of ways to call cheese, like mozzarella, parmesan, etc., but you know that you're just going to call all of them as cheese. Whereas if someone is an expert in culinary and they know precise all the names of all these different kinds of cheese, then they are familiar and knows all the precise vocab for all of them. So this is the type of one type of disparity that we're trying to simulate. We convert a lot of the specific object names into their hypernym form. So pizza, Coca-Cola, etc. We turn them into food. Cat, dogs, we turn into animal. That's one type of disparity. This type of disparity challenges the model to learn to switch words in the same sentences. The second type of disparity is visual access disparity, where a lot of the time, due to physical orientation or some kind of visual impairments, some of the objects might be visible to one party, but not necessarily to the other. Therefore, in order to communicate with the other party, then you really try to find a subset of the objects that are both visible and accessible to both parties. Therefore, we for demonstration purposes, we just get rid of all the animal related objects for the listener. Therefore, the speaker, through interaction with the listener, needs to figure out that what is accessible to the listener and what is not. And this type of disparity challenges model to pick out semantically certain types of objects to talk about and describe instead of just switching words. So yeah, these are the two types of disparities we're trying to learn and accommodate, but obviously there are way more other types of disparities out there, which would probably require more types of data sets and multi-model data sets and different ways of learning in order to accommodate it. But that's like the first step that we're trying to do.
Great. So yeah, that's super interesting on the knowledge disparity too, because I think a lot of people in our field consider, they talk about common sense knowledge, right? Which is this knowledge that everyone knows, but really everyone knows different things. So actually starting to address that problem is a really important step. And then also I'm curious, so is the finding of your paper that the large pre-trained models, they can actually learn to adapt their communication if we apply some kind of layer on top of them? Or is it really that the current solution isn't effective and we needed to make some more significant changes?
So I guess like it's at the end of the day, it's a matter of how you train it and how efficient you want it to train it. If you give appropriate data sets for a model, obviously, if you throw everything together, the model eventually will learn how to adjust for this one type of person, type of group with this type of disparity. But what we're trying to do in our method is really break down the entire end-to-end pipeline into different sections, because we have our knowledge-based ground that we basically retrieve all our relative information from. But then we can also flexibly adjust to different type of disparities depending on who we're talking to, even though we're talking about the same content. So the same content part is really shared across all different type of disparities, and there is no need for us to retrain the whole big model over and over again. And what we're proposing is to really just put a very, very lightweighted layer on top of it, so that next time when we're running into this new person that we've never talked to, then through the interaction, we can figure out what they know, what they don't know, what they have access to, and adjust for that flexibly and really efficiently, instead of having to compare to end-to-end model. You basically just have to retrain or fine-tune the entire big model, which is very costly.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think that kind of mirrors what humans do to some degree. Great to hear about your work. Definitely check out Emily's paper if you're curious and want to know more. I guess beyond that, what did you do before your PhD? Was it all related to what you do now?
So I did my undergrad here at Yuwei. I majored in computer science and minored in biology. Back in my undergrad, I did start doing some kind of research projects in here and there related to machine learning or software engineering. I was more focused on machine learning plus biology / healthcare back then. But a lot of the things that I learned in computer science and machine learning really helped me towards what the projects that I'm working on right now, which is also why I'm really interested in taking inspirations from how human baby learns and how human body interact and reason about things, because I do think there are a lot of things we can learn from human nature. And that is one great resource for us to take inspiration from.
Yeah, it's so cool how to see people who take inspiration from some of their background and then bring it into their PhD later on. It's good that you're able to do that. What are you thinking you want to do after you graduate? Because we're getting a little bit close to that, aren't we?
Yeah. But I do think that I would want to bring what I've learned in grad school, the research that I've done, the project I've worked on, into industry and eventually turn it into a product. Because I think a lot of things that I do, they are definitely more on the fundamental side, which is very exciting. And I would like to see them to actually benefit the society.
So you transitioned from your bachelor's to your PhD at Michigan. I guess I'm curious, first, why did you choose to stay at Michigan? Versus, go to another program, and how do you do this as an undergrad student?
Yeah, so I guess the first decision I had to make is whether I want to go to PhD program or not. And I was fortunate to work on some research related projects when I was an undergrad, and I really enjoy them, which really helped me to make this decision. And then the next question is, how do I land in Michigan? It was definitely a big decision. I actually wasn't able to decide on this until the day before the national deadline between
Oh,
several
wow.
schools. But eventually I chose Michigan because there were a lot of resources that I'm already familiar with, that I know how to use them, and it could really help me accelerate the whole process instead of having to get familiar with all the basic stuff that you have to learn when you onboarding a new school, a new program. And I was really looking forward to utilize that, and also connections that I've already made in Michigan, and hope that will help me to accelerate the process for the program. How do I do that? I guess I sort of answered that in the first part, that I did do some research projects when I was undergrads. There were a lot of interesting projects that I was working on, and some of the projects directly helped me to go into the program because I was already working with some of the professors in the department and outside of the department, and they were all collaborating, and that helped me land it on my PhD project.
It seems like there's a lot of advantages actually to sticking around at your undergrad and doing the PhD. Is there any disadvantages, I wonder?
Yeah, the disadvantage is you're staying the same city and seeing the same group of people, or maybe a few more new people, but you didn't. I guess like the reason I was really debating between Michigan and some other schools was part of me really wanted to go outside of Ann Arbor in Michigan and see the world, just because
Mm-hmm.
in different cities, different environment, different culture, you could meet all kinds of interesting people in a different environment, which is definitely exciting. I guess that would be one of the downsides of staying in Michigan. But if you know where to look, there are also obviously a lot of amazing people that you can interact with just within Michigan. And you get a lot of travel opportunities as a PhD student. And everyone is working remotely, and like just meeting new people on the internet is definitely also a way to go during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I did not know about this back then, but
Right, right. Yeah, that was unexpected for everyone, but it does work out nicely because there are always ways to connect with people around the world, really. So I guess what I'm hearing is it's kind of a trade-off between sort of how hard is your adjustment going to be versus, you know, if you choose to stay in your undergrad program to do a PhD, now you're staying in the same place, and you have to, if you like the place enough, that's good. So Michigan is a great school too. So
it is.
um,
And Ann Arbor is a lovely city.
now another thing I wanted to ask about was your, at least from my perspective, you're very active in sort of a service for our department, or at least like our grad student body. You've served as an officer for CSEG, and I wonder, could you tell me more about that?
I tried. Okay, yeah, so CSEC is the Computer Science and Engineering graduate student organization, and I was fortunate to be the DEI chair 2 years ago and the relation chair and the president last year. Being part of the CSEG, it really helped me to get to meet a lot of new people, make new friends outside of your own lab, outside of your own division, and really get to talk and get to know more about everything that's going on in the department and connected with different faculties and staff. We, not just me, but really the whole officer team, we're really trying to collect the voice among all the grad students, bring the voice to the faculty, see what are the challenges we're facing, and what are some of the solutions we can make. So part of it, we try to organize a lot of more social events, especially during the pandemic, because especially for first year, second year students back then, everything was really challenging. It was really hard to meet different new people. And CSAG would really try to host a lot of social events online and offline to bring everyone together, and not just among students, but between the faculty and the students. We even rented out the entire Yoast Arena and hosted the skating social for the entire department. At the same time, we would connect with other student organizations in College of Engineering or even outside of college. So that skating event, it was hosted jointly with the ECE department. We've also hosted tailgate events at the beginning of the fall with the ECE department and grad suite. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun meeting new people and also hosting all these social events and connecting with the department and the College of Engineering really helped us to feel like that our life is more than just doing research, but also make it a nice community for everyone to thrive in.
Yeah, that's so important. That's a really important part of grad school, really. And I can definitely tell that you've done a really good job at making connections and being social in grad school. So I guess for, incoming or prospective grad students might be nervous about that, maybe even moving to an entirely new city or country. I guess, what advice do you have for them on how do you make friends and build these sort of connections when you come to grad school?
I guess the first thing is definitely there are all kinds of social events out there. Those are the great opportunities to get to know new people. It's not just at the department level, it's not just at the college engineering level. There are all kinds of student organizations want you to attend their social events. They prepare free food, free trips to go wherever, provide these opportunities. Definitely take great advantages of all of these social events. Other than that, like within our department, get to know the people in your lab, get to know people right next to your lab, even though you might necessarily have a great chance to get to know them, other than running into them in the hallway. But also there are a lot of reading groups happening in our department, or even just running into people in the hallway doesn't hurt to say hi. Sometimes you never know, you might find your next roommate or your best friend for the rest of your life. Yeah, I do also wanted to say that our department in our university has a very diverse community, and everyone comes from different background. Definitely keep an open mind and be respectful for all the people and interesting things that they have to offer to say. And everyone will definitely resonate to that.
That's all super good advice for incoming grad students. And I feel like, at least from in my experience, there's all of these social events. It almost sometimes is overwhelming because you also have so much work to do, right, as a grad student. But sometimes you really have to step out of your comfort zone and connect with your colleagues, because your colleagues aren't just your colleagues now, also they're going to be kind of your colleagues for the rest of your career as well. It's good to make friends at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also a personal choice of like how much time you want to put in your social life versus your research study. And there is no right answer for that. It's all personal preference. But I do think that it is important to have the social life to balance out your work.
That's definitely true. At least the policy that I follow is you shouldn't let your research and your work be the only source of
exactly
positive stuff in your life, right? Because your research is more often than not going to go badly, right? That's just being a grad student. You're going to have a lot of roadblocks and failures. So having a social life, having hobbies, having a pet, whatever it takes for you personally to make sure you're not burning yourself out, and you're really being kind to your own mental health. That's all super important.
Yeah.
When you're not working on research or your all your service that you do, what do you like to do just for fun?
I am taking a piano class.
Ooh.
And Michigan actually offers a lot of interesting classes. So I'm taking this one-on-one piano class with grad students from music school. And it's only half an hour every week, but it really helped me to keep this hobby. And I get to do something very different other than staring at the screen all day. and music really helps me to express my emotion a lot of the times and release my stress. So I really liked that. And also there are more than just piano. There are all kinds of music instruments. I have friends taking clay classes and molding cups and all that. I have friends taking yoga, swimming classes. Michigan has a lot of different kinds of classes to offer, and they were all covered in your tuition. So definitely take advantage of that.
Yes, yes, that's so cool. And honestly, this is something that I've never even thought about doing. So, right, our tuition is paid for as grad students.
Yes.
And they don't have strict requirements on all the specific classes you have to take. So, in the summer, like it is now, a great mental health break could be taking a class that's a bit out of your ordinary, right? Something that maybe gives you a creative outlet, like for you, or just something different. I think that's a really cool idea. Okay, the next thing I wanted to ask you about was you just came back from the NACL conference, which is a big conference for us NLP people. It's a North American conference for the Association for Computational Linguistics. That was in Seattle. How was it? I still haven't had my first in-person conference experience, so of course I'm a little bit jealous. But yeah, um, how did it go? What advice do you have for me when I finally go to one?
Yeah, I would say it's very, very different from virtual conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would I would try to take as many opportunities as possible to go to conferences. Um, but if you can go in person, definitely go in person. Just because I get to meet so many people in person and actually put a face into the name instead of just a name on the paper that I don't know who they are, or on their website that I don't really know who they are, what kind of stuff they do. And there are actually a lot of interesting personalities behind the names, and you get to talk to them in person, or even have a dinner or have a lunch or grab a coffee with them and just chat about whatever. Um, I especially love the poster session because that's when you actually get to have one-on-one conversation with the presenter or the couple authors that were co-presenting together. Um, on top of the amazing food, it was just an overall very, very great experience to get to know everyone in the field. Um, as a rising fourth year PhD student, it is unfortunate that is my first in-person conference ever. But if there's more chance for me to go, I would definitely try to go as many in-person conferences as possible. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That I'm glad that you had fun, and I think it's like I think this is another point where making these connections going to be really helpful for your career as well as your own social life, mental health. So that's awesome. And an in-person poster session, I definitely agree. I've had a few of those at least. It's not the same, even when you're on like the Gather Town platform. It's like half the time you walk up to the poster and either no one's there or they're just sitting there with the camera and microphone off and you can't talk to
yeah.
them. So that's really cool. Yeah, I'm hoping I probably within the next year, I'm hoping I can at least get one in-person conference before I graduate. The
Oh yeah,
pandemic has made that
definitely.
really hard for people who are around our range of like years in the program. Because
Mhm.
I think the first, year or two that we were working on our PhD, the pandemic hadn't started yet, but we were also barely started on our research, didn't really have
Right.
papers, didn't have anything to present at these conferences. Then the pandemic happened right as we started to publish things. So it's it made it hard for us.
Yeah, definitely.
But now the in-person conferences seem to be back in pretty much full swing. So definitely something to take advantage of if you're in grad school. It's one of the coolest things about grad school is that you get to
Yes.
go to all these places and network with people in your field and talk about the things that you're passionate about. So definitely recommend doing that as well, even though I haven't been able to do it myself.
Next
um,
time, definitely go.
yes, next time, hopefully. Um, so then, yeah, I guess the last thing I would ask, beyond the things that we've already covered, and we are coming to the end here, what would be your biggest advice for incoming or prospective grad students? If there's anything that you think we haven't covered that you'd like to mention.
I guess, first of all, congratulations and welcome to Michigan. It's definitely a very, very interesting and exciting journey that's about to begin. Take full advantage of it. Keep an open mind on all the things that you're about to see, all the interesting people you're about to meet. There are a lot of things out there for you to learn, and it's all in your hands of what you want to learn, what interests you, and what is meaningful to you. You do not have to rush into anything. It is a good chunk of time just set out there for you in your life, for you to really think it through of what you want for your life and what excites you for your life. And you may not necessarily have the answer right away. I don't have the answer just yet, but that's the time for us to figure that out, and definitely take advantage of that. And best of luck on your journey.
Yeah, that's all great advice. It's like I think a lot of people who are starting their PhD, they probably don't realize how unstructured it's going to be compared to all the school you've had so far, and that's partly the point, right? Like we're here to learn how to, at least in our case, be scientists. We're here to learn about, the whole body of work that we're trying to make some contributions to, and ultimately we're going to make some contributions to it. Yeah, that's and I think also your advice goes beyond that as well, but definitely all good points. So to wrap up, I guess I'll mention again that Emily just recently had a paper appear in the ACL 2022 conference, and that was called Learning to Mediate Disparities Towards Pragmatic Communication. So definitely check that out if you're curious about her research. Okay, well, thanks for talking to me, Emily, and I'll see you around campus soon.
Thank you, Shay.